Most of you took chemistry, didn't you? No? Yes? You know what NaCl is? Na. That certainly doesn't look like the word for sodium, does it? You'd think it would be SOCl. Chloride makes sense, right? Cl. Natrum was the old name. The name during the time of the people who were trying to transmute lead into gold. Alchemists. Natrum. Natrum chloride. Sodium chloride. Can you eat it? Yeah. Do you need it? Yes. I'm sure some of you have been in the ocean. When we started going to Florida, first Miami Beach, then Fort Lauderdale, every summer it was the required necessary trip on old route, I guess whatever, I think it was 25 was the route before it became Interstate 75. So it was mostly a two-lane road through every town between Ohio and Miami. See our little buddy flying around? Yes. Hopefully he's not in the Air Force and isn't going to bomb anybody. Oh, in the summer, we'd usually go in July. Cars weren't air conditioned in those days. Wasn't it fun? You remember that you'd pack sandwiches in a cooler, and after a while, remember how they got? I heard someone once say, boy, there's nothing as good as a hot sandwich in a hot car on a trip. I can think of other things. Anyway, it was a long journey, and then we'd get down there, and I loved going in the ocean. And more than once, I probably drank my share of ocean water. Remember how salty it was? Yeah, absolutely. The motels would have freshwater pools, but you had to have the waves where you could just go out there and bob up and down. And that was wonderful, just wonderful. It took me a while to realize I carried a lot of the ocean with me. It wasn't from drinking it. What's your bloodstream? What's one of the main ingredients of your blood? Sodium chloride, salt. Plain, old-fashioned salt. The back of your bulletin, I did something I haven't regularly done. I put quotations other than Charles, Myrtle, or Katie, or a Unity writer. But you have a quotation from Rocco Errico, and this is from his Aramaic Light on the Gospel of Matthew. It says, from time immemorial, salt has been a precious element. Centuries ago, when salt was scarce and modern methods of processing were unknown, salt became a medium of exchange, just as gold and silver are today. Our term salary derives from the Latin word sal, S-A-L, which means salt. In those days, they paid their soldiers and workers in salt. You know, we've heard the expression, a worker worth his salt. Yeah, worthy of his salary. No food would have any flavor without mixing a little salt with it. Anybody ever been on a salt-free diet? Yeah? Kind of bland? Yeah. My father couldn't stand it. When salt loses its savor, Rocco says, it is useless. There are two kinds of salt, sea salt and earth salt. Well, yeah, which kind do you use? From the sea or from the earth? Now he makes a statement, and I've never heard this before, and so I cannot guarantee that what he says is actual fact. Sea salt never loses its savor. Well, sea salt, a lot of the salt mined was once salt from the ocean. So as the water dried out, left behind was the sodium chloride, the salt. And now that's mined. You can take salt water and dry it, evaporate it, and you get sea salt. And there's some very lovely kinds of evaporated seawater, salt, that you can pay high prices for in this country. Or you can buy my favorite, the Himalayan pink salt. Did you ever use that? Well, you have to use a little bit more because it isn't as salty. And it isn't as salty because it has a large number of minerals that are added to it. So it provides you not only with salt, but with minerals as well. In the back, on the table at the back of the room, that's Himalayan sea salt, or Himalayan salt, mined in the Himalayan mountains. Very good cooking salt. Can you imagine salt losing its flavor? What use would it be, right? I can hear my father. Ida Mae, you forgot to salt the potatoes. No, I didn't. Well, you didn't put enough on. Why don't they have any taste? The kind of things, as a child you hear at home sometimes. How do you get the flavor out of salt? Now, I guess it kind of contradicts what Rocco has just said about sea salt never losing its flavor. But you can. The only way I know to get the flavor out of salt is to put impurities in it. What would happen if you added white sand to a tablespoon of salt? Well, you'd have a lot more salt appearing, but a lot less salt in every pinch, would you not? You can pollute the salt, you can dilute the salt, but it's still salt. In life, what do we do with it? Are we worth our salt? Well, in the East, it's an idiom. I want you to look at, if you look at the back of you don't have to look at the back of your bulletin. No, I put it on the screen. So Chris will do the two passages of Scripture. Salt is good. Well, I agree with that. But if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? I don't know any way, do you? It is fit neither for the land nor for the dunghill. Men throw it away. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Well, that sounds like an odd statement. And perhaps you've seen that before. That's a clue. Jesus is giving you a clue. There's a deep inner message in these few words. Salt. What in the world does he mean by salt? And how does it lose its flavor? Why would we have to throw it away? Here, Jesus is speaking to people who have acquired a certain understanding, a certain knowledge of truth principles, of the truth of being. They know principle, and they have ears to hear his message of truth. and even more, to put it into use in their lives. Isn't truth like salt? When you use it, doesn't life have more taste, more flavor? When you think you don't have enough and you seem very limited on prosperity, then you, pick up a book by, shall we say, our favorite prosperity authoress. And who would that be? Catherine Ponder. Sorry if you weren't here when Catherine Ponder sent a copy of one of her prosperity books for each person in our congregation a few years ago. Yeah, for free. It was her gift to some of you. Anyway, you may come across a book like that and you pick up an idea, a principle of how to change your consciousness to conform to the truth that God is our instant, constant, abundant source of supply. Well, what happens when you start to work with that? I can remember in the early days in Cincinnati and Unity, pick up a little idea here and there from a class, seed money. When I heard about seed money, you've heard about seed money, surely. Whenever you're purchasing something and you get change back, give that change. Did you ever try to give your change to a cashier? Here, I'd like you to have this. They're not used to getting it. It's a real surprise. Used to do that all the time. And it's amazing how it would come back multiplied. When I forget, doesn't happen. That certainly adds flavor to my life, doesn't it? When you practice these principles and things begin to change and life begins to truly happen for you. Wow. So all of a sudden, life tastes pretty good. There are other times where you know what it tastes like. That sausage I had in Rouen, France. If we have an understanding of truth, better is it that we apply that truth. We understand that God is omnipresent, everywhere present in our lives. God is the one and only source. God is the source of life, of love, of peace, prosperity, all good. We look at a lot of channels through which our good comes, perhaps a job, perhaps, remember as a child, you look to mother or daddy. Mother, can I please have a quarter? Now what do they ask for? Mommy, can I please have $20? How the world's changed. Yeah. I don't know what an allowance would look like today, but I remember when it was silver, like 50 cents, and then maybe $1. My first job when I was 16, minimum wage, you remember what it used to be? $1.25 an hour. If truth is salt, like salt, it gives life flavor. And especially when you use it, just like you would use it, you wouldn't hesitate to use it in your cooking, for heaven's sake. So if you use it, great, life tastes pretty good. But it's real easy to accept yeah, these truths are true. Yeah, they're true. And boy, they're beautiful. But then fail to, what's that movie? Failure to get liftoff. I can't remember what it was, but failure to to thrive because we don't put it into practice. We have it intellectually. Hey, I'm a good truth student. I can answer every question about truth principles. Do them? Well, I try sometimes. Oh, every couple of months I kind of work at it for a bit. So easy to have a concept of it and never put it into practice. Now, how often should we put it into practice? All the time. You got it. You want to finish this talk? You walk all the time. When you have a question, you're walking through a supermarket and you don't know where something is. Do you ask for guidance? Not from a human being, but in the depths of your being. Father, show me. Lord, I need such and such. Show me where to go, where to find it. To take God into every aspect of your life. I read a book once back in the early 80s about taking God into every area, every moment of your life. I tried an experiment, doing laundry. I said, Lord, I do this unto you. Cleaning house, doing dishes, cleaning the cat box. I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore. I kept in mind, Lord, I do this unto you. Do this for the glory of God. It's amazing what a difference it made. Things that seemed such a chore, my attitude changed. Things that had been seemingly difficult, all of a sudden, were not. What changed? Me. Because my attitude changed. My consciousness changed. The way I saw these areas of my life, these things for me to do, changed. Charles Fillmore, in one of his books, talks on truth. He goes so far in a chapter called Reform Your God Thought to say you can ask God about anything. Anything. And he also said there is nothing too wicked, hear that? Nothing too wicked to ask God about, to involve God in every aspect of your life. That's putting salt, not in a wound, but in what feeds you, adding taste to your life. When you don't use it, then what use is the truth to you? It's as if you just trod it underfoot because it's meaningless. In the East, Rocco Errico says that when the salt loses its taste from moisture, that they just throw it out. They throw it on the roof. Well, people go up there and they work and they walk on it. Kids go up and they play their games, running and playing over it until it's ground away to nothing. Sometimes life looks like that, doesn't it? Looks like nothing. And then we wonder, where did it go? the next passage of Scripture. This one is from the Sermon on the Mount. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trodden underfoot by man. You are the salt of the earth. When you remember God, when you bring God into you and your life, when you remember those spiritual principles that Jesus taught and put them into practice. Remember, Jesus said, if I be lifted up, lift up all men unto me. If you be lifted up, change of consciousness through the application of truth, then you lift up all. Everyone who comes in contact with you. You become a beneficial presence. You become tasty in this world. So have salt in you. Take God with you everywhere. Close your eyes for a moment. Remember that right where you are, all the life, love, substance, and intelligence of God already are right where you are. At every moment in your life, at every point in your life, at every challenge in your life, and every joy in your life, all the life, love, substance, and intelligence of God are there. All the truth of God is there for you to remember and for to use. Call God to mind more often than you ever have. And you will find life has greater and greater taste and flavor